These books, they're nothing like the others I've read. Stoker and Shelley? No, this Necronomicon and these Seleno fragments, speaking of an ancient library in another world. Perhaps if I can decode these, I can discover something amazing.
Welcome to the Twisted Tentacle Inn. I'm your Innkeeper Vase Odin, and today we'll be discussing Daisy Walker, the librarian. Even from a young age, Daisy was always excited to be swept away into a new adventure through the magic of books. She read everything she could get her hands on. Little did she know that the magic of books was more than just a figure of speech, and she would soon come to know just how powerful it could be. After becoming the librarian at the Orn Library, Daisy had her choice of books with unlimited possibility. She quickly began to become attracted to reading about things she abhorred in real life, and consumed everything from the up-and-comers and the legends. Bram Stoker, Mary Shelley, Edgar Allan Poe, and others. She hungered for more and eventually stumbled upon the John Dee translation of the Necronomicon. The book was far beyond anything the others had written, and as she immersed herself in the voluminous tome, she began to feel that it was not a work of fiction. But even more unsettling was a new arrival to the library's restricted collection. They were notes and strange writings called the Seleno fragments. Seleno is one of the 7 stars of the Pleiades. On its 4th planet is the Great Library of Seleno, which houses stone tablets containing secrets stolen from the Great Old Ones and Elder Gods. A professor named Laban Shrewsbury somehow visited this library, transcending time and space, and transcribed what he learned from it into his notes, which later became known as the Seleno fragments. These notes recently found their way back into the Orn Library, and Daisy was ecstatic to find out what secrets and mysteries they hid within their pages. But as Daisy investigated the pages, she began to have a vision of a massive alien building with millions of books lining its walls. Within, several beings with writhing tentacles protruding from their heads tended to the books. They noticed her, and before they could reach her, she awoke in the safety of the Orn Library. Daisy felt uneasy the rest of the evening, and as she closed up the library, she saw serpentine figures slithering around inside. She moved to get a closer look, but whatever it was, it had disappeared. Daisy thought her imagination had gotten the better of her, and messing around with the mystical books had sparked paranoia in her. But that theory was quickly debunked when she noticed a mark in the dust on the ground in the shape of a tentacle. Daisy's experiences with occult books and noticing similar references within each one, despite having no documented connections, have inspired her to investigate further. But what's interesting about Daisy is that she doesn't investigate necessarily to help mankind survive the horrors of the Great Old Ones. Her desire for uncovering the mysteries of the mythos seems to stem from the need to fulfill a more basic desire: curiosity. In Arkham Horror the card game, Daisy Walker is a seeker with a 3 in willpower, 5 in intellect, and a 2 in both combat and evade. Her special ability is that you may take an additional action during your turn, which can only be used for tome action abilities. Her Elder Sign effect is a +0. If you succeed though, you can draw a card for each tome you control, which we'll see later is up to 4 for her. Now, some people feel that the +0 is kind of not great, but my argument is most of the time when you're doing a skill check, you're actually running it with the hope of passing it. So you're going to boost your skills high enough to pass that check. So +0 really means a pass on 90% of the time that you're going to do a skill check. So when you pull that Elder Sign, that +0 might as well be a +10 on most cases. Daisy's biggest weakness is her low health, which is a 5, but she has a 9 in sanity, so that's pretty good. Her deck building requirements: she has a deck size of 30. She can take Seeker cards from level 0 to 5, Mystic cards from 0 to 2, and neutral cards from 0 to 5. And she gets her tote bag and the Necronomicon, as well as one random basic weakness. Her being a dual class Seeker Mystic gives her a tremendous amount of flexibility, so you can build her in several different ways. But reaching out to the community, I did get some best practices for her, which I'll share with you in just a few minutes. Her signature card is Daisy's Tote Bag, which is a 2-cost asset. You have 2 additional hand slots, which can only be used to hold tome assets. This is tremendous for Daisy, who loves to have tomes and whose special ability is using tome abilities as an extra action on her turn. This is great. You can hold, up to 4 tomes in your hands if you wanted to, or you can hold 2 other items that are hand slots and 2 tomes. It's great. It really gives you quite a bit of flexibility as well. And having 2 hand slots really for anything is actually really good, no matter what. Daisy's signature weakness is the Necronomicon, the John Dee translation, and the effect of it, once you pull the card, it comes into play into your threat area with 3 horror on it. It takes up 1 of your hand slots, so if you don't have Daisy's tote bag, you basically are now left with just 1 hand slot for her. And then the way it works, you put 3 horror on it, and it just sits there, and every time you pull an Elder Sign, it's actually an auto fail, so it doubles your chances for auto failure. And you can get rid of this by using 3 actions. You'll have to use an action to move 1 horror from the Necronomicon to Daisy. So this is kind of a multi-step punishment. First, it takes up a hand slot, then it doubles your chance of failure when you pull from the Chaos Bag, and then to get rid of it, you're going to take 3 horror, and you're going to use up 3 actions. It sounds extremely punishing, but it's actually not so bad. I mean, let's be honest, how many times in a game do you pull a Elder Sign or the auto fail? I mean, the auto fail seems to come around a lot more often than the Elder Sign. But, it's not really terrible. To get rid of it, I think is more punishing than just having it in play, unless you really need that extra hand slot. Now, one last thing to note, it does say move horror from it to Daisy, so that's really important. You're not taking horror, and you're not getting assigned horror. It's just moving. So when you do that, you cannot put that horror on any of your assets or allies, and you can't use effects that trigger when you take horror. This is only moving the horror, so that's pretty important to note. So as usual, I reached out to the community to find out about Daisy Walker, and I did test play her several times with different ideas that were thrown around, and some of the things that I think is pretty much consensus with players who use Daisy is build her mostly as a Seeker. The Mystic cards should be used mostly as splash cards, so there are some great Mystic cards that work very well for her, but you don't want to set her up as a spellcaster or mystic. So, spells like shriveling and things like that, you don't necessarily need. Ironically, though, Rite of Seeking seems to be pretty popular with her. Giving you that extra clue on low shroud location seems to be pretty handy. Seekers already have such a great card pool, specifically with this card, Higher Education. This changed the game for Daisy and a lot of Seekers as well who are able to take it. With that, you can boost your most important skills high enough, basically to whatever you need for a very cheap price. So when you're building Daisy, what you want to do is definitely get a lot of tomes. There's very specific ones that are really, really powerful with Daisy. The Old Book of Lore being one of them, because it lets you, look at the top 3 cards and draw one. So that's huge. Having additional hand slots for tomes, you might as well take full advantage of that when you have your signature card out. Others have noted that with her super high intellect, you really don't need a ton of skill cards to boost her intellect. So something like Perception is not usually necessary in her decks because you have so many Seeker cards that already boost your intellect as it is. plus then once you have enough experience, you'll have that higher education. So you can free up some card slots and not having to put perception in there. And in terms of combat and avoiding combat, there are some great cards for her as well. In the Seeker class as it is, there's a ton of great cards, Mind Over Matter, and I've Got a Plan, plus a bunch of others that'll actually let you use your intellect instead of other skills to get things done. So really with her, you just want to get her intellect boosted up with static increases like Dr. Mylan Christopher, or the magnifying glass. Since you can use mystic cards, the St. Hubert's Key is phenomenal for her. You don't want to necessarily use cards that boost her willpower. It's going to make your deck really clunky, and it takes too much work just to get her at a acceptable level with that to be a spellcaster. So a lot of people build her mostly as a clue gatherer, and then using her tomes to kind of do a couple of other things with. And then her mystic abilities give her access to cards like Drawn to the Flame to pick up clues very quickly and easily, and other cards that'll help you avoid treacheries from the encounter deck. So you can definitely build her in so many different ways, and again, the community is the best place to look for ways to build her, and check out Arkham DB for some great deck ideas. Or you can always ask the Facebook or Reddit groups. They're always very helpful when you ask them to help you build a deck. So Daisy is a pretty powerful character now. Apparently she used to not be when the core set was initially out, but she's really great. She's not my playstyle, but a lot of people enjoy using her, and it was really interesting researching her. Playing with her really made me kind of change up my playstyle, which was a lot of fun as well. Hopefully you enjoyed this video and it was helpful for you. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them down there. And please subscribe. It really helps the channel and helps others see the channel and find the channel, or like the videos, or make comments, or dislike it if you like. Until next time, I am your daddy, Vase Odin, the Innkeeper. See you soon.